All right, we're going to be going and taking a look at Holy versus Satcastor on Stream Junction. So Stream Junction is a really big map. It's probably, I believe it's probably the longest rush distance and probably in the entire map pool. I did actually look into this and I couldn't find anything that was worth figuring out. So I guess inherently, just because it is a big map, 2den is gonna be really unlikely to be able to do a little bit of damage. So it's just really far. So normally what happens is your first yeah, so basically what I'm just saying is it's unlikely that your 2den is going to get as much damage as in a different map because it is going to be just a longer trek across the map. So oftentimes people do go for a quick castle. So this is probably the map that most people will attempt to do a castle first. And because of that, it probably means that people are aware of that and say, you know what, we won't do that. We will choose the player who's going for a castle first. But anyways, I'm being a little bit of I'm rambling on a little bit here. So we have the what's it called? The archer opening out of Holy. I'm not a huge fan of the archer opening in this particular map because it just takes way too long for your archers to go across the map. But yeah, so that's just kind of it. Also, Holy is going to be supply locked here. So I'm actually not sure what the build was, but it looks like you are going to be supply blocked. Let me just go back. I'm really sorry. I really this is going to be a little bit annoying for you watching, but I guess I should have done this a little bit slower from the beginning. So yeah, Holy is going to go for a 9 house. Yeah, that's why. So you go for a 9 house 10 racks here, as you do. That does mean you are going to be supply blocked, so which is why I recommend going for the 8 house 9 racks into the 2 archers into the castle, which means you will not be supply blocked. Yeah, this is. Anyways, you have a 2den. So as the 2den player against archer opening, what is your goal? Number one, you're unlikely to actually get inside and do some significant damage. So you kind of have to say, okay, I don't think I'm going to be able to find a lot of damage, like straight up damage. You kind of want to say, I want to contain my opponent on just 2 bases. Try to do a little bit of pressure, maybe force some workers to be pulled, maybe try to do a little bit of damage, but it's generally pretty tough to find like critical game ending damage if your opponent is just very passive with these archers. And coupled with the fact that this map is gigantic, does mean that I feel like this 2den is not going to be able to find a lot of damage. Yeah, but we'll see how this goes. So we have a castle. And you're forced to cancel a worker to get another archer out. So these wolves come in, they're going to try to do some damage. No workers were pulled preemptively, so that's a little bit unfortunate here. It almost gets the wolf. Does not. Not quite. So this sort of thing is okay. So in theory, this sort of attack where you save all the wolves and you get a little of damage, it's like quote-unquote irreversible damage because your units regenerate health and they'll heal up eventually, whereas these archers won't. But with the addition of priests, which has been something that has been happening a lot, generally people like to go for priests. That doesn't mean these will regenerate up eventually. One other thing is that when you are going against this archer build as the den player, if you take too much damage, even if you don't lose your wolves, if you take too much damage, the potential for that 7 archer push out becomes much more stronger because maybe he comes and only one-shots these particular wolves that are way weaker. So that is something to be aware of. I do like that we're transitioning into a castle, but we'll see how this goes from here. We have a second Rax on the way for Holy. So he's going to try to go for that. The workers are also, I guess, a part of this. I think that's good. Generally, I would have preferred to see them being pulled a little bit earlier. But yeah, I think overall we have an excellent opening out of Holy, and Holy's in a great spot. getting away with a more economic opening. Yes, you're going to be trapped inside your own base, but hopefully the economy will be able to compensate for that. And of course, we have that bird, which is going to do that scouting information. This is a little bit sloppy here out of Holy, not being a little bit too aggressive with those archers. They take a little bit of damage. And we have a nice little base over here. So the question is, what is Satcastor going to do over here with from here? So the opening, I'd say, is slightly better for Holy, but it's not the end of the world. Things that you've got going for you if you're Satcastor is you're containing your opponent, which is great. So it looks like we are going to go for a Snake's Charmer, which kind of indicates to me that this is more likely going to be some sort of 2-base push. Generally, you don't want to get the Snake Charmer too early. If you do, that's going to be delaying the other aspects of your play, such as a quicker 3rd base, or maybe more upgrades, or I don't know if you want to go for dragons, something like that. So this kind of indicates to me that Satcastor is attempting to do some sort of aggressive play. And then if it were me, if I was a Satcastor here, I'd definitely be looking to go for a quicker 3rd base in lieu of the Snake Charmer. In fact, I probably even wouldn't have gotten a 3rd house. I probably would have gotten a quick 3rd base instead. But we have this bird coming in on the way for for Holy, excuse me. So Holy's going to be looking to do all that scouting. We're losing a few wolves here. I think we've lost like 2 wolves so far. Yeah, we've lost 2 wolves so far. You don't want to be losing any wolves here. Definitely a bit of a mistake. And we're going for yet another house. So looks like we are going to try to go into a bit of a 2-base aggression sort of thing. Interesting to see that we don't have another Wolves Den on the way. So it's kind of like a middle ground kind of thing, it seems like. So I don't know. I feel like this is very interesting. I'm not quite sure what the goal of this is. It kind of feels like it's a bit of a light pressure. But for it to be a light pressure, I feel like maybe we're over investing a little bit on 2 bases. So generally, as Beast, you want to be above your opponent in terms of bases, in terms of workers. You want to have essentially map control, which you do have, but you also want to be getting a better economy. Because in like a straight up fight, the same number of supply. Let's say you have a 50 supply Rax army versus a 50 supply Beast army. The Rax army is basically guaranteed to win. So you need to be getting an advantage somewhere else. Looks like Holy is going to go for a 2 Rax into Church. So a little bit of I guess a 2-base kind of push. And yeah, I also like that this bird is being very active. It kept an eye on this 3rd base. It's trying to see what's up. And Satcastor is just going to go and stay on 2 bases so far, it seems like. So this is right now, if I had to look at this game, I'd say this is very good for Holy right now. Just because you're even throwing down a watchtower. What is the reasoning behind this? I'm not quite sure. I guess because you don't see your opponent trying to go for a 3rd base, you're just thinking, okay, he's going to attack me. The thing is, because of how large this map is, you can throw down this watchtower as soon as you see him start to move out. Like on Ravage, for example, if this is their opponent, the opponent's natural base, as soon as they start to move out, you can throw down your tower, and that will be ready in time. And on a larger map such as this, you can probably even wait until they get like about here and throw it down, and then the tower would still be ready in time. So this is investment that we're putting into defenses that we don't need at the moment. This could have been just not built at all, and we could have taken a faster castle, and we would have been even happier. So I'm not quite sure what your logic is in getting this tower at the moment. If you're afraid of a push, maybe instead of going for a tower, maybe you throw down a couple more dens, right? Because this towers are generally only good if you, okay, so we're going to throw down another den. We still haven't taken another base. So this is not looking very good for Satcastor here. It looks like we're going to try to do a bit of a priest push off of 2 bases. I also think that this, okay, so the positioning of this army, I would have preferred to have this a little bit closer up, just so that you can have a little bit more understanding of what your opponent is doing. This is a little bit passive, which is fine, but I don't know if you're afraid of losing your units because you're not paying attention. I think it's fine, but I would have preferred to have these units a little bit up, a little bit more forward. Looks like Holy is going to do a bit of a push out. You haven't seen the priest yet. Holy has done a great job of hiding that so far. You've also have not been able to get that scout into the main base. Yeah, I guess you should know. You would know that it's going to be some sort of a push from the number of units. So good save on that wolf there. Yep, very nice. This is a pretty nice attack. I feel like you could have actually, just straight up engaged here. So generally when you do this sort of attack, you want to, if at all possible, you want to be targeting the archers, because the archers are the ones that are a lot more squishy. Basically, you want to be attacking the archers if at all possible. You don't want the soldiers to be. You don't want to be attacking the soldiers, because they're there to tank, and you're letting them do the tanking that they want to do. So you have a third base on the way here for Holy. We still don't have a third base on the way for Satcastor, and this is the exact opposite of what should be happening. I feel like Satcastor, you had the opportunity to take this third base, I'd say like 3 minutes ago, and you haven't taken it. So that means that you're just going to be behind. You're behind as a beast player who had map control, which is not good. So I think you had like two options here. You either, if you were going to go for a bit of a push on two bases, you throw down the Snake Charmer, that's fine. You throw down more Wolves Den, for sure, like go up to 4 maybe, and then you start attacking in, you start trying to nibble at the walls a little bit, you start threatening us around, and you don't let him get a third base up at all. Or you go for a bit of a quick third base, and then maybe you play like defensively from there. But it kind of feels like you're kind of trying to do a little bit of both, in the sense that you have a watchtower being defensive, right? But you're also being a little bit offensive by not taking a third base, by going for additional dens and also a Snake Charmer. You're also teching up to go for a fortress as well. So it kind of feels like your game plan is a little bit all over the place at the moment. Yeah, I'm not quite sure if I like your. I don't know what your reasoning is. I don't know if you saw something that made you think, oh, I need to be very defensive. But right now, our third base is behind our opponents when our opponents had no raiders. So okay, in the Beast versus Rax meta, or the matchup, if your opponent goes for raiders, then it is difficult to take this third base really quickly, right? Because you need some units to defend, you need to keep the raiders at bay, right? And at the same time, you want to be also denying your opponent's third base. But in this particular case, we had a situation where you had all the map control in the world. There was no way that your opponent could have done anything to get by you, because you had basically map control of the one main exit to his base the entire time. So I'm not really sure why you didn't go for just a quick third base. Yeah. Looks like Holy's going to go for double upgrades. Does need to send another worker there, though. Definitely a bit of a mistake. This bird is being still alive. Also seeing that fortress, I believe, yep, is a very good bird for Holy here. I love the vision here, though. I like that you have a wolf here, a wolf here. I would have even preferred to have the... Okay, so where do you want to put your wolves, basically, as a beast player? Number one, you want to put them at the potential next bases that your opponent can get. So let's say he has this completely set up. Then you put a wolf here. You put a wolf here. And this is unlikely, but, might as well. Actually, probably you don't. And then you also... Number two, you want to... get information of all the potential attack paths. So you want to see anywhere that they can actually move out. So they could potentially move out to this way. So if you put like a wolf here, that would cover this way and this way. And if you put a single wolf over here, that would cover this way and this way. And everything is totally fine. And there's no way that your opponent can get across the map without you knowing, unless they do like some drops or whatever. But that's where you would want to position your wolves. As you want to have eyes on every single attack path that they can make, so that you don't get caught off guard by his army movement. And then once you've done that, what do you do with your wolf snake? What do you do with your army? You want to threaten run-bys. You want to threaten, a little bit of a harassment here and there. So, for example, on this map, it's a little bit more difficult because this is a pretty, it's not the easiest natural to get into. I guess it's not that bad. And then there's this third base. So you kind of want to have ideally half your army on this side to try to harass this side, while the other half is threatening to come in this way to do a little bit of damage. But I guess your game plan on this sort of map, a huge map that's favored for Beast, would probably be, just keep him on 2 or 3 bases, depending on what the stage of the game, and just take a better economy, go for better upgrades, go for better, just have more money, just have more units, and then you should be fine. What do you want to do if you're Rax in this matchup though? So if you're Rax, you generally want to go for it really depends. So if you go for Raiders, you kind of want to find a lot of damage, deny the third base, and get a bit of a snowball rolling there. You can try to do what most people like to do is a 2 base or 3 base big push. So generally what happens is that if you have a huge Rax army, like let's say you have 100, let's say you're maxed out. You have 150 army or 150 supply and you have a big army, right? A Beast army is never going to be able to beat that head on. So with a quote-unquote unbeatable Deathball army, you just go across the map, and you want to try to kill bases one by one while forcing your opponent to fight into you, and you just take a better fight and hopefully not lose as many units. As Beast, you want to be doing the opposite. So you want to keep tabs on where his army is. You want to try to deny all the bases, and let's say he starts to move out. That's when you say, okay, you can move out. It'll take a while to get all the way across the map. But while you're moving out, that means your army isn't at home. So I'll just destroy your third base. And you're forced with the decision: do I come back to try to save my third base, or do I, continue with the attack and be forced into an all-in situation? So that's kind of the idea behind what you want to be doing. One other thing is you probably would have wanted to place down that healing ward just for the heals there instead of just banking up the energy. But yeah, so this third base has been taken. And we are now finishing our third base here. I like that you have these wolves here. Very nice. So if I was Satcastor here, I'd definitely be trying to see if I can find some damage out the third base. Just playing very passively here. We're also going to be behind on upgrades because our opponent, because Holy did go for the double upgrades, which I do like. Just one thing to note is that if you're going for this sort of pre-style, generally armor upgrades are going to be a lot better because they synergize very well with the healing wards, especially with soldiers with their innate 1 armor. And that's just going to be really nice. But if you do go for that, you do need to be careful of, let's say he goes for werewolves, then you're not going to be able to shred through the armor of the werewolves as much. But yeah, I'd say Satcastor is in a bit of a world of trouble. That wolf does see this army move out. So right here, Satcastor, you have a decision. Number 1, you can go in and try to attack the third base and force your opponent to decide, do I come back and defend, or do I continue on with this attack and go across the map? Or number 2, you try to take a fight right now, try to thin out this army a little bit, and then hopefully take another fight later on and just clean it up eventually. So the advantage with being on the map as Beast is that you can take 2 fights against a single army. So you take 1 fight on their side of the map as they're moving out, and then later on when they arrive at your side, you take another fight. So you basically have 2 chances at the same army. You hopefully whittle down, maybe you expend some energy. Ideally, you snipe the priests, you pick off some units. But yeah, those are the 2 options that you have as Satcastor right now. If you're just chilling here, that's neither of those options. Looks like you're going to come back and try to defend. Oh, maybe not. You're trying to go for a bit of a counterattack. I do think this is a good idea. Possibly could have done it a little bit earlier, but I like this idea of going in to do a little bit of a counterattack. And this is a very nice move. Just because, number 1, Holy didn't have a very nice setup. So let's say he had actually walled this off a little bit better. House over here, tower inside instead of outside, and a little bit more, maybe some more racks over here to defend and hold position a little bit easier, then this would have been a little bit more difficult. So Holy definitely making a mistake in the Sim City here. This tower was exposed, the mineral line was exposed, which is great. But as we're doing this Rax army has gotten already across the map, more than halfway across the map. So if you had done this immediately, let's say when his army was right over here, he would have had, I guess, a more dire situation. But right now he's saying, okay, you can have my third base. I'm going to kill you with this army. And we'll see if that's going to be possible here for Satcastor. And you decide to just leave. Okay, so you're going to try to get back home to try to defend. So how many workers did we kill? I think we killed like maybe 1 or 2. It looks like 3. I'm not sure if all 3 of those were right now, but I would imagine so. I don't think we got any more kills. So we took 3 damage, or we killed 3 workers, right? So we need to try to get back and not... it looks like we're trying to get back and fight this with all of our entirety of our army. But is it worth it? I don't know. This is kind of like you kind of, I don't know. It feels like you're kind of trying to do 2 things at once. You're trying to defend this army, and you're also trying to do a little bit of harassment, but also defend this army. It's kind of, I don't know. If you had just disengaged and said you don't get a third, then you can also just get rid of your third, and you'd be totally fine, right? Or well, I guess not in this particular case, but ideally at the sense you would have like another base, a 4th base, and you'd say, I can lose my 4th base. You don't have a 3rd base. I'm ahead, sort of thing. But yeah, we'll see how much damage this push is able to do. We're gonna come back. So if we decide to come back, as which we are, we don't want to be fighting until our army is back. So here we just want to try to disengage. Yeah, disengage. Try to buy as much time as possible, and we want to be fighting with our entire army. And Holy is able to reestablish his 3rd base, which is not ideal for us. And once again, this SimCity is not working out for us. If we are Beast, we want to try to have things as open as possible. We want to try to get big surrounds. We want to try to get a lot of empty space to work with. In this particular case, it's not the worst because we have a little bit of SimCity for our tower, which is nice. But in general, we wanted everything to be very wide open. So, for example, instead of having it like this, I would prefer maybe you put the house here, a tower here, and that's it, right? We want to try to get a big surround, basically, as Beast. And all these units here are going to have very significant trouble trying to get a nice angle here. So all these wolves... We're only going to have, looks like 3-ish wolves attacking at one point. Also, one other thing, this is very nice identification out of Holy here. He threw down a Healing Ward, and by default, the Healing Ward attack priority is lower than the regular units. So all of your units over here are trying to attack this soldier and not attacking this Healing Ward over here, which means that only one single wolf can attack at the moment. We have as well as just 2 snakes. So a lot of this army isn't actually doing anything. You see these wolves, they're not doing they're not doing much. We've come back with the rest of our army, so it looks like we're gonna be able to clean this up eventually. But this was definitely a bit of a mistake on our side of what's it called? Of SimCity wise. At the same time, we are gonna clean this up. For Holy, I just want to say, the having these soldiers in the back, obviously not ideal. I like that you tried to do a very nice, what's it called? A good situation over here, as in, like, location of where you're fighting. But yeah, you get cleaned up here, and it's looking very good for Satcastor, despite the early game. So I'd say this is, so what happened here? If you're the Rax player, you want to have like that unassailable army, like that army that doesn't actually get defeated at all. So you had like an army, right? And you kind of went in, but it was kind of like not reasonably sized in the sense that it was still able to be surrounded and like killed, right? So generally, when you want to try to do this push, so it's a bit of a dichotomy, right? You want to do the push as fast as possible so that your opponent doesn't have time to tech up and get upgrades and maybe go into catapults and everything. So you don't want to do that. But at the same time, if you go too early and you lose that army, you're going to be behind because you no longer have an army. You lost your priest, which is very big because you're not going to have that healing or you're not going to have that tech. So it's definitely a bit of a balancing game. I want to hit as fast as possible so my opponent doesn't have time to, get into a great situation. But at the same time, I want to be, I want to wait as long as possible because I want to have a big enough army that my opponent can't engage into me. I guess one other thing that you could have done Holy is that as soon as you realize that the Wolf Snake army that was attacking your third disappeared, you should know that, hey, he's going to try to come and surround me, right? He's coming back with his army. So maybe you say, you know what? That's totally fine. I can just leave now. That sounds really weird, right? Because you already took some damage and you want to be finding a little bit of damage. But the thing is, the longer the game goes on, if your opponent is like really scared of an attack, in this case he probably was, he's probably producing more units. He's not going to be going for a fourth base until he's cleared it up. If you're forcing him to create to overreact, and you can just come back home and come in with a bigger army next time, and hopefully quote unquote unkillable army. But yeah. Satcastor, we have a handful of dragons. Looks like we're not going to be actually going across the map with them just yet. We're just going to be pulling them up a little bit, which I don't mind at all. But sometimes you want to be... Sometimes you want to go in and try to find as much damage as you can. But at the same time, the longer you wait, the less time your opponent has to react. So if it starts to be a single dragon, then the single dragon isn't too threatening. Your opponent has a lot of time to actually get that anti-dragon, the anti-air, build up a flock of ballista as well. Whereas if you just pull them up like you're doing right now, as soon as it hits, it's like, oh no, there's 10 dragons instead of just, oh no, it's just a single dragon, I'm fine, right? So this wolf is going to be... So another thing is that as soon as you see this fourth base attempt, you want to be going out on the map to deny this because you want to be constricting your opponent to 3 bases. So as Rax, generally on most maps, the fourth base is going to be really hard for you to defend because there's going to be a lot of distance between your third and your natural and your main and your fourth base. That's a lot of distance you have to cover. And at the same time, this fourth base means... you're kind of forced to try to play defensive and you want to try to defend that fourth base instead of saying, oh, I have 3 bases, I'll just wait and push. So it's really tough for a Rax player to defend a fourth base in general against beasts. So that's just something, if I was Satcastor here, I would be looking to go and deny this fourth base. So that's why a lot of players who do go for this fourth base, they generally want to attack at the same time they're taking their fourth base. So you say, okay, here's a big push, let your opponent see it. So like, had Holy taken this fourth base when he was doing this push, I think that would have been a great idea. But right now, Satcastor has nothing to really deal with, so he can just go across the map and deny this fourth base just like that. And then let's say his Holy's army comes to defend. That's when you have another run by at his third. So you want to be ping-ponging him from the furthest locations of where he needs to defend. And that's the game plan over here. And especially if you have dragons, you'll have like dragons in the main. You have a wolf snake at the fourth, a wolf snake at the third. And it's going to be really hard for your opponent to actually defend in every single location perfectly. So I would be sending all of these across the map. Looks like we're going for a bit of a drop. I don't mind that. But you can also be finding value with these units as well, in my opinion. And looks like Holy's going to be taking this fourth base. It's like about halfway done and hasn't been contested just yet. These workers are on the wrong side. A little bit of a mistake, but that's okay. It happens. We have the dragons coming into the main base. Going to try to find a little bit of damage. We do have a single ballista as well as an airship. I guess one other thing was that this fortress was scouted, so Holy did know that you were going to go for dragons. So maybe it was actually better to actually send these dragons across the map immediately. Maybe, maybe not. It's debatable. So we use this drop to get to this fourth base. We could have just walked over here, right? I would have expected this drop to actually go into the main base because otherwise you can just walk here. What's the point of having this airship, right? Also, we're going to go for upgrades, which is good. But at the same time, we're behind. I believe your opponent, I believe Holy's on 2-2. Yep, 2-2. So we're severely behind on the upgrade, in upgrades. And that's going to be really big, especially if upgrades coupled with like armor upgrades with Healing Ward. That's going to be really huge. This is definitely a huge mistake out of Holy here, losing that Ballista for free. Not ideal. You had the workers there to repair. You also had the airship to pick it up and leave, but yeah, definitely not ideal. We have this army. Imagine if this was this entire army. This would be completely denied, but we don't have it here, so not going to work out. Looks like we're also losing some of these dragons. Don't want to be doing that. Lose another dragon. So far, we've lost 2 dragons, I'd say. Make that 3. So these dragons need to stay alive so that they're a constant threat. They need to stay alive. They need to be something that, oh, I need to make sure to continue to build ballista. You know, maybe I need to throw down some towers. It also keeps your opponent pinned on his side of the map, right? So if we're losing them, like, yes, we're getting value. We killed, like, killing the ballista here was fine. It was great. It was just a mistake on Holy's part that he wasn't repairing. But just losing the additional 3 dragons in this general area was not ideal. Not at all. And I do like that we're going to be able to deny this 4th base, it looks like, which is great. And even just expanding here would be very nice while we're putting on some pressure. But our army is kind of, you know, trickling in, which is not good. We're also losing this, it seems like. It looks like we're busy at home trying to... Okay, there we go. Yeah, so this could be... I would say this could be dead right now. Had we immediately gone for this. I do like this attack into it. Yep, very nice. But by now, it looks like Holy has a bit of an army advantage. And once again, we're not using right now, we're not using that mobility of the Beast army to our advantage, right? So I think had we come in at the same time when we were attacking like into the main, you know, he can't have his archers both here and there, right? So that would have been great for us. But because we're all attacking with our entire army at one place, it's very easy for Holy to split his army because he doesn't need to split it at all. He can just come in and defend at this one point. Yeah, so this is gonna be, looks like a bit of a, yeah, it's not looking too good here for Satcastor in the sense that we didn't make the best use of our army. I think we're still ahead, like in terms of supply. We're behind on upgrades though. Would love to see another base, by the way, as well. Just while this is all going on, just to, you know, go for it. And then these dragons, yeah. So this sort of attack again, just in one place, it's not what you want to be doing as beasts. You want to be everywhere at once, or not even just everywhere. Like even if it was just dragons in one place and the rest of your army elsewhere, that would have been much better than everything in one place. You know. So, oh, we did get to this base. Excuse me. This is something that a lot of players don't get. So the reason why a lot of players don't get this base is because if your opponent attacks you and it has this base, this is a pretty nice launching point into the rest of your bases, right? But let's say you take like this base or you take this base, right? If you take this base, your opponent can only really continue attacking this one angle, and that's only the angle you need to really deal with. Same thing over here. If your opponent attacks this base, you can only really attack you through one general angle, right? Whereas if it's over here, let's say he destroys the space, you don't know if he's coming this way, you don't know if he's coming this way. So generally, you want to, as beast, you want to have your bases as far away as possible to gain full advantage, to make use of your advantage of speed. So that's why you see like Sylvan Charm being a very good beast map. You see this sort of map, Stream Junction also being a very good beast map. So what does Holy have going for him, right? Holy has the upgrades, which is great. He's ahead on upgrades, and he's been ahead on upgrades the entire game. 3-3 versus +1, which is a huge. That's 5 sets of upgrade or 5 upgrades ahead, which is big. And he also has the tech. I guess, yes, we have dragons if you're a Satcastor, but you don't have like werewolves. You don't have maybe like catapults or anything, because you can obviously tech into catapults if you wanted to, right? You're not locked into a single race, and once again, we're only attacking in a single location, which is not what you want to be doing if you are a beast player. So I guess, based on the fact that Satcastor lost this game, which spoiler alert, it kind of feels like Holy's gonna survive until he gets a 150 army, and then he's gonna go across the map and just win, is my guess. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting over here. As Satcastor, once you're maxed, what do you do? What do you do? Number one, there's a lot of things you can do. Number one, you go for more additional bases, which you're doing, which is great. What's another thing you can do? Spend that money on upgrades, which you are also doing. Might be able to get the other upgrade as well, which is great. Another thing is get more infrastructure. Because, let's say you lose your army, then it's much better to have like 9 dens to reproduce out of instead of just 5, for example. What's another thing you can do? You can be teching up. So you can maybe throw down a workshop to go for catapults. You might be throwing down some werewolf dens, something like that. You might want to go for, as you said, invis werewolf drops. That's a little crazy, but go for it for sure. And yet another thing you can do is throw down towers, because towers are supply free, so no supply units that, well, not units, they're technically buildings that can actually shoot and tank and all of that. So those are some of the things that you could be looking to do. And you're doing quite a lot of them. So werewolves den on the way, you're expanding, we're getting some upgrades. So that's great. Probably want to have the werewolves den be a little bit less exposed. Maybe you want to do it in this one. You don't want to do it in the ones in the back because you can't squeeze out. But yeah, I like that you're going for over here. Love that. This is a perfect time for the rest of your army to be attacking somewhere else. Maybe you attack the 4th base, maybe you attack the 3rd base, right? You want to be pulling your opponent. You want to be doing that multitasking, right? But it looks like our army is very static here. You can also split your army. I guess I've said this before, but it's half and half. And the idea is you spend half of your army over here, and then force your opponent to defend, and then you attack the other side as soon as he starts to defend on this side. Right. Holy basically is saying, I need to go for the ultimate army. I need to go for a maxed out army and just walk across the map and do that one big push and hopefully win. And that's his goal. I like that we're going for the additional bases. I also like that we're going for a whole bunch of mages here. So this mage army is going to be very hard to defeat. Gonna go for a drop. I don't mind that. Obviously, would prefer to go into the main base. Why do we go into the main base? Number one, there are units there. There are less units there because generally the army is going to be at the front of the base. Number two, generally people like to put their tech in their main base. So maybe you could snipe some upgrades. Maybe you snipe the Mages Guild. Maybe you snipe the church. Look at this. All of the important tech buildings are all in the main base of Holy. So generally, if you want to be doing drops, you want to be doing them generally into the main base. Not always, but it's usually a safe idea. Looks like you're going to try to go for a bit of a drop at the 3rd base potentially. Or maybe just going to keep that around. That's fine too, I guess. We did go for willows, but we're supply max. So another thing is that when we're maxed, we want to be trading out our units. So as long as we're making some trades, then we'll be in a good enough position because we can still remax. Because as long as we're making trades on his side, on the opponent's side of the map, it's good for us because we still have so much time when let's say we take a big fight, he wins the fight, he starts to come across the map. We have that much time to actually remake our army, and hopefully his army is smaller than it was initially, right? So if we're maxed, we also could be starting to, exchange, quote unquote, our army, trade in our army for a bit of an advantage elsewhere, right? So you don't have to take the best fights as Beast if you're in this sort of stage where you're maxed and you've got map control. Yeah. So once again, we're attacking all into one location, more or less. So once again, that is not what you want to be doing as a Beast player. And now, looks like Holy is saying, I I've had enough. I'm gonna go across the map. Let's take a look at the workers. I feel like you might be a little bit over in workers. Generally, you want to have enough workers that you can remax, but at the same time, you don't want to have too many, or else you're gonna have a smaller army. If I had to guess, looks like you have about 60-ish workers. 52. Okay, so that's a high enough number. I think that's fine. That's a fine number to be. You don't want to be going up to 60, 70. That's a little bit too much in my opinion, because Beast is supply inefficient, meaning wolves are 2 supply, but so is a soldier. And what do you want if you only look at supply and not cost? You want a soldier. It has more damage. It has more HP. So you're a maxed out, like the same supply of Beast army is not going to be as good as the same supply of Rax army. So that's why you want to be, you kind of don't want to have too many workers, or else you're just going to have not enough army to actually deal with anything. And we're doing a little bit of a fight. So here's the thing. If we're kiting back and trying to take little bits of damage and we're not actually committing to a fight, that advantage of us saying, here's a big fight, we attack you and we lose our army, but we kill some units, we force out some healing wards, force out some fireballs, force out some energy. That advantage, and then we come back and then we rebuild and go for round 2. That advantage is going to be gone, because what are we doing? We're just trying to escape, run away, right? We're not actually engaging into the army, which means we're not actually making advantage of that fast remax ability of Beast. We're just saying, I need to. You're reducing the number of chances that you have from 2 to 1 by being kind of indecisive and just running away. So yes, it's a scary army. You're gonna lose the fight, but this doesn't mean that the longer you wait, you're gonna have an army that actually can win this fight, right? It's not like you have, I don't know, catapults on the way. I guess you do have a handful of werewolves on the way, but that's gonna be more or less it. And that is a very poor position to fight. I'm not sure if you noticed, but these grasses you can't actually engage into, so all of your all of your ground army was basically being funneled into one side, and just coming in one single file, which means his army can just shut it down really easily. And then the ballista actually come in and absolutely destroy your dragons, because they can actually do this. So back similar to when that first thing happened, that first thing happened when he was going across the map, we said, let's do a counterattack, and that worked out okay. Let's say we do the same thing. You start to see him move out, and we say, nope, I'm not fighting that. I can't do that. Deny his third or deny his fourth base. Maybe even deny both of his auxiliary bases here. And then you say, this is it. I can just defend this. I can lose like 1, 2, 3 bases, and I'd still be fine because I have another base over here. I have more bases, right? But because we're saying we didn't go for a counterattack, because we've just been backing off, we're losing all of our options that we have as Beast to win this game. Right, Holy's coming in. We do have some towers, but towers were nerfed, so mass towers isn't as good anymore. Which I think is a great change, by the way. Yeah, if we just look at the army supply, like right now, he's 10-ish supply up, and what's this? 20-ish supply up in down in workers. So that's actually like a 30 supply army differential. And as I said before, our Beast army is supply inefficient versus a Rax army. So it's kind of over from here, to be honest. Like. So I feel like a lot of this is just a lot of inexperience as to what you want to be doing as a Beast player, right? It feels like you're not quite familiar with what the strengths of Beast are and what you want to be doing in specific circumstances. Yeah. Like going back from the beginning of the game to saying, hey, I have a big contain, I probably want to be taking a quick third base because he can't really do anything against it without raiders. That's a very, I guess that's a call that Beast players can make pretty easily. And I feel like like the idea of going for counterattacks, doing multi-pronged harassment. I feel like that sort of thing is just something you just don't have a lot of experience in, and therefore it's hard for you to understand what you want to be doing in the different stages of the Rax versus Beast matchup as a Beast player. So yeah, we also have, what happened to all these? Okay, I guess they tried to come in and do a little bit of damage. Maybe. But yeah, this is pretty much over. I mean, looks like, yeah, that was a big smash. I mean, we hold on, and we're totally fine. Well, not totally fine, but, like, we're in a good enough position to not be dead. Honestly, like, because we were so far ahead, like, economically, we had more bases. I guess he got this base up now, but we're still okay, I guess. We're behind on upgrades still, it seems like, yep. But, I don't know. Retaking the bases is good. And you can also transition. You don't have to play Beast the entire time. You add some catapults. Add some mages if you want. Go for invis like you said. Got a little bit of a counterattack going. Good smash there. I like that Holy is taking another base as he's pushing. Yeah, this is a cleanup, but he's got another army on this side of the map. And yeah, by now he has the same number of bases as you, and it's just kind of over. So this sort of multi-pronged harassment that Holy is doing, where he's attacking on this side, forcing you to defend, and then as soon as this, and then he's attacking on this side and forcing you to defend, that's the kind of thing that you should be doing as Beast, right? You should be having portions of your army being attacking. It's a lot more riskier for Rax to do this because Beast is a bit more mobile, right? And it's a little bit more difficult for Rax to do this sort of thing, but it's working out for Holy here. I think because mostly because he had a big advantage after that fight. And yeah, that is going to be the end of the game. I hope this replay analysis was a little bit helpful, if maybe even a little bit more than a little bit. But yeah, please let me know if you have any questions. And yeah, we'll